What's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to Season 2 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 91. He is an entrepreneur with a passion for solving big, challenging problems. He is the CEO of Deeded, a startup focused on streamlining and modernizing the closing experience for real estate and mortgages. Prior to Deeded, he co-founded MoveSnap, the leading moving concierge service for the real estate industry, and has spent 15 plus years as a senior executive helping Fortune 500 companies innovate and evolve their client experience. He holds degrees in business and human resources and is an alumnus of the Harvard Business School. Today on the show, I am joined by my friend Reuven Gorsht. Reuven, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Good afternoon, David. Glad to be here.
Buddy, it's a pleasure, man. I'm excited to have you. I know we've been chatting about this for a little while, and so it's certainly exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing about all the stuff that you guys have been up to, because every time I look at you, you're moving and shaking in a different direction in a good way, like always building something where you're like, how did this guy do it so quickly? So no, man, that's all a serious compliment. I mean, I remember this. When we first met, we were back in at a conference, and I'll keep it to that. At a conference in downtown Toronto, and you would come up and basically just introduce yourself and said hello. And I mean, it was kind of like, it almost kind of felt like already we just knew each other. It was easy, right? But at the time, and this is what I first remembered was, you had MoveSnap, which you guys had started with Alan, and Alan's amazing. And I realized that since then you have started Deeded. And I want to learn more about both of those. But first, very quickly in a nutshell, because I know this is now technically old news, but I do want to make the connection for anybody who may not know. What is MoveSnap, and like what led to the transition to Deeded?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've always had a tremendous passion, as you know, Dave, for the real estate industry. I thought, saw an opportunity about 5 or 6 years ago and just saw the shift. Everything was becoming more digital. Everything was becoming more about, how to make the process a lot more seamless. And MoveSnap was an idea essentially born out of my personal experience moving homes, where everything that could go wrong did. So we've decided, my co-founders and I basically decided to come up with a digital concierge service that will essentially take you step by step through your moving process and all the tasks that you got to do, like connecting your utilities and changing your address and so on and so forth, so that you're never left to chance. You know exactly what you need to do, when, etc. We ended up starting the company and partnered with a lot of really amazing people in real estate. And grew very quickly. It did become a little bit of a household name. We were fortunate enough, again, to have the support of some incredible supporters out there and adoption. We did have an opportunity back in mid-2018 to go through an acquisition. We were started off as some partnership discussions, and we ended up actually selling the company. We closed in again in mid-April last year, and that's that. So what I'm really grateful for is, like, obviously the MoveSnap is still that household brand. It's still getting rave reviews, and we've got the company now to a scale where it's every founder's dream is, hey, look at my baby, and it's off and still flourishing, still making waves. So I'm grateful for that.
Buddy, I'm pumped to hear it, man, because I know you guys did some great stuff with MoveSnap, and I know I was surprised when I heard that you had sold it, but it was kind of one of those exciting things too, to go, yeah, that's my boy. Like, he's, things are positive, obviously, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's always nice, of course, to see too that sort of the progression of it is that it's still kicking, it's still doing its thing, and of course, being your baby, yeah, it's a nice thing. So tell us now. Let's move ahead then and go. What is Deeded, and how does it help realtors and even homeowners? And I know that that's probably a fairly loaded question, but please, like, get into detail, because I know even when we were talking, and I was just getting a little bit more background, like directly from you, it was that thing of you had made a comment of it's a full service digital process. Everything is virtual. And just before you answer that, I'd say, when we look at the world we're in today, with everything being virtual, how much we're using our cameras and we're doing our Zoom meetings or whatever we're doing, there's a lot less physical interaction with people.
Right.
And I know, just again, from being in the industry and understanding kind of the process of a home sale, a home purchase, this part of the closing process is incredibly important, right? Now you guys have, again, made it fully digital, but tell us about Deeded, like, and how does it help everybody?
Absolutely. So a little bit of a backstory, and so I've gone through a closing in my current home. We were closing on 2 properties. One we were selling, one we're moving into the house same day. They say not to do it, but hey, let's take a chance and do it anyways. And literally half an hour before the closing, I get a call from my lawyer at the time, and basically saying, look, we're missing a document, and if we don't get it, we can't close. And the good news is I knew exactly which document it meant. Bad news is that same morning, it was in the first box that I put up on the moving truck, and it goes up in that that nook that goes over the cab.
Yeah.
So it's the last box to get unloaded, and I'm like, look, you're no way we're going to get in a half an hour, even if we dump everything on the driveway. Long story short, lots of stress from that point on. About $2,000 in penalties and fees that I've never anticipated. And from that point, that whole experience, which was really done well, by my realtor, by all the other parties that I've worked with, really went sour. And that's what that's the thing I remember the most. So Deeded, in its simplest form, is really an opportunity for us to reimagine that legal closing process. We are a full service real estate law firm, but we are essentially, as you said, David, we're essentially virtual, meaning we can now close completely online, and that includes having and meeting the clients and signing documents over video. That includes corresponding via secure protocols and portals, and really making that whole experience a lot more seamless, predictable, and transparent. So everybody knows, everybody's in the same page in terms of where the transaction's at, what happens next, when's it going to close. So we're really looking to bring that predictability, transparency, and really make it a really great experience, so that that's what you remember when you go through a real estate transaction with Deeded.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff, because I mean, when we again, as we look at the virtual world, and then you look at sort of the little kerfuffle that you you were going through that day, per se, to almost empty out a box or look for something, those unexpected little expenses, those little things that we maybe not didn't know, and this may or may not be through the right education that maybe your realtor was providing to you, the way they went about things. I mean, it could relate back to a number of different sources, right? But there was a hole that you were looking to fill,
Right.
and that was the whole key there, right? It was that idea around, because you had said to me this thing about friction.
Yep.
Tell me more. Share more,
Yeah.
because I know you and I talked about, but I wanted to come from you rather than me, because you talked about that. I thought, it makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, no. So look, I mean, I've always been a student of kind of, finding out what's going on in different industries, and really learning and analyzing, what things are effective as industries change and transform. And one of those patterns I've seen long ago, and we don't need to look very far when we think about, Amazon or Instacart or Uber. Like, what do they all have in common? I mean, they're all taking the friction out of something that we need to get done, right? So in the case of Amazon, I need a product, and there's my Amazon box arriving in my door, totally transparent. I don't have to go to the store, especially nowadays when it's a chore and a hassle. Same with all these other services. So most successful businesses nowadays that are thriving and they're doing well and they're constantly growing in a viral way have that sense that they're essentially removing the friction out of a process. Can we still go grocery shop? Can we still go to the hardware store? Can we still, pick up our own food delivery? Absolutely we can, but can you beat the convenience of some of those services, right? So we're sort of looking at it the same way. In the real estate process, you've got a lot of complexity, right? Big decisions. You've got lots of players. Last I, whiteboarded it out. There's about 8 to 10 different parties, right? From your realtor, mortgage broker, lender, appraiser, inspector, you name it, stager, etc. And you got to coordinate all that. And naturally, you're going to have these points of friction that are created, both for the client and, of course, the realtor that's trying to essentially be the conductor or orchestrate all those things together.
Okay, I love it. So I got two things that come out of that then. One of this is when we talk about friction, what about for those people that may not be so technically inclined, and the realtor, basically chooses to use this process to go through it. So they take on deeded, and it's the whole idea of, okay, I, the realtor, want to use it for my business. I want to make this a less friction type of process. Is that even frictious? I don't even know how to word that properly, but what about the client though, who may look at that and say, I don't know how to use everything. And I guess where I'm going is, like, is it easy to use? Is there training around it? How, if I'm the realtor listening in, how am I confident that, I could probably use this for everybody? Or would you maybe say, hey, look, this is probably better for your, such and such clients? Or just curious about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a valid point, but it's also important to distinguish between, technology adoption or know-how and convenience. Now more than ever, and I think, COVID in the last 6 months has really accentuated necessity. That means that, my parents who are in their mid 70s, they're ordering Instacart, they're on YouTube, they're ordering food now. Everything has become, that digital world that's opened up to them, whereas before, they wouldn't touch a computer. They were not technology savvy. They didn't know anything about it. So now you're seeing more and more and more people kind of jump on that technology bandwagon. But at the same time, I've always believed that the best technology, if you design it right and design it properly, doesn't need instructions, doesn't need training. Good example of that is the iPhone. If you buy an iPhone or any Apple product, is there a manual in the box? No, there isn't, right? Pop it open, it guides you through. And anybody, if you're 5 years old or if you're 75 years old, you can go through that process and quickly familiarize yourself with it. And that's what we use as sort of design principles for deeded, because again, we know that not everyone is going to be at the same level, but essentially by guiding that, the individual, the client, the home buyer, seller through the process step by step, and giving them ways to interact with us that are very easy and really don't require any effort. So for example, we set people up on text alerts, right? Very similar to, what Uber does or Amazon, hey, your package has arrived and so on. In our case, we text the realtor, we text the buyer or the seller saying, hey, we've reached the next stage, or we need this, or we need that, or don't forget your appointments on Tuesday, right? And I think for the most part, those things are becoming mainstream. My dentist uses it, my car dealer uses it, and it's becoming something that, it's part of our lives, right?
You know what? It's a good point though too, with the iPhones and the limited sort of instruction manuals we get these days. Like, I mean, I pop stuff open for my kids, and I'm like, how am I supposed to figure this out? And a lot of times you're going to have a QR code these days, and QR codes kind of disappeared for a little while when they first came out. They were used incorrectly, but now. And I don't know how many people are aware, but your phone, literally, when you open up your camera, you don't have to click anything. You just got to open your camera and scan a code, and it will literally open up a URL on there. You just click the button and it'll take you there. So talk from instruction manuals or processes. I mean, the access is there. So you bring up a very valid point. And I love what you said too about, the breeding necessity, around how your parents are shopping online and using YouTube. And I mean, I'm seeing the same thing from my parents. So it's an amazing point. So tell me this then, and you kind of went on this as we open this up of why and what is deeded, but what challenges are the realtors facing in the closing process? And I guess I'm before you answer that, I'm actually going to say this too, is that one thing we've seen over the years is we'll get the deal signed, essentially pen will go to paper, we will have this 30, 60, 90-day closing window, and then most times, many times, and I'm not painting this brush over everybody, but the agent will go and do the things they need to do until it's time for closing. And I really believe that the sweet spot of a referral is the closing process. Is that moment that you finally get the deal. Like, it is signed. We are doing this. You are going to get paid at some point. But wait, there's this moment in time now where they're really, really, really excited, right? What's going to happen when they move into their house in 30, 60, 90 days? They're no longer excited about you and the process and everything and getting the deal. Now they're excited about the house. So in my mind, the sweet spot of a referral is really that part of the process right there, that if you can be there, holding people's hands, checking in with them just the way you did when they were shopping for the house or whatever it was, listing the house. You're holding their hand, you're walking them through the process, you're just checking in, letting them know you're there. Chances are you open up a world of opportunities for the referral. So I come back now to the question of, what challenge are realtors facing? What challenges are realtors facing with this part of the process? And again, where do we come in to simplify it? Because, I'm also going to say, take me through step by step of like, I am the realtor. Tell me what's next.
Absolutely. So I think, David, when you were saying that a couple minutes ago, I recall, you did a video, I think a couple of years ago, just on that very topic. And it really, really resonated.
How do you remember that?
I remember that because it just resonated so well, because you're right. Like the word of mouth gets generated because we go through a certain experience. But what's been happening, and it's been scientifically proven. If anybody's listening out there, if you really want a great book on how it all works when it comes to like neuroscience, the book is called The Power of Moments. If you know, like Dan and Chip Heath wrote The Power of Moments a couple years ago. And these are the same guys, if you've ever read Made to Stick, which is a best-selling marketing book. So these guys are academics. They've done deep research into not only experiences, but what do people remember out of anything? You go to Disney, what do you remember? You buy a home, what do you remember? And what they've kind of boiled it down to is two things. The first thing we're going to remember is a peak of an experience. And that could be a good peak, that could be a negative peak. And for example, to relate it to real estate, a peak for me as a home buyer is that really stressful point, for example, when I've submitted an offer and I'm waiting to hear back, that 24 hours, that 36 hours or whatnot is, as we all know, we're, in the business, it's such an emotional roller coaster. Will they go for it? What will they come back with? And that's normally the peak that people sort of remember. And then the other thing, and arguably even more importantly, that people remember about an experience is the end. How did it all kind of wrap up? And those are the two things for any experience that stick in people's minds forever. Now, why is it important? It's what gets people talking. Because what they're going to remember, if they're going to remember the end of the process, and you're orchestrating the process and you pride yourself on delivering a really great experience that your clients will talk about and tell their friends, tell their family, and so on, you better make sure that goes smoothly. Now, coming back to closing, as you said, David, it's extremely complex. It's literally taking all the different moving pieces of the transaction, of the funds, meaning the lender, the mortgage, what the lender requires, packaging it all together and making it seamless. Essentially, with our goal is to get that key in that client's hands on closing day and get him moving in, getting him on their couch and sipping their favorite beverage that evening. That's ultimately like our vision and our focus. How do we get from, this whole myriad of things to key, bottle of wine on the couch, right? So for us, it's really, what makes us stand out is that's what we're reimagining. We're reimagining that experience. We're making it very transparent so that any client or anybody that's involved in a transaction knows exactly what's going on, what to anticipate. It's not a black box. We're automating a lot of processes to make the process, the overall closing goes smoother, so people can anticipate and you know what's going to be needed, and you're not stuck in the same situation that I was stuck with 30 minutes before the deadline, right? And that's you know that's ultimately the value, is if you want to deliver that smooth experience, it's going to be that last moment that clients are going to remember. No matter how well you did, that's what's going to stick. It's like, and to me, it's like, you know, that my entire last transaction, it just comes down and I can almost visualize exactly where I was when it was happening and everything around me. And I remember that vividly, whereas I don't remember anything else.
You know, you say that, and forgive me, I put on my hockey and my baseball coach hat, and it's like you sit back and you know that your players are working hard all game. You know they're having a good time, but you remember that one play, that one where
You remember about the Raptors win last year, right? Like everybody can visualize that moment, that you know, microsecond.
That moment, and that's exactly what it is, right? Is that thing right there that most people are not necessarily paying. You know, it's more general, right? Like you think you did a great job. Look, bottom line, I love the point, because you're absolutely right. It's that moment right there that is going to create that memorable experience. Now, when we talk about mind share, right, that top of mind thing, are you building positive mind share? Are you building negative mind share? And in fact, to that, I'd say to you, like, you know, what should realtors be thinking about so that they can build positive mind share as an extension to this closing process?
Yeah, no, I'd say again, like nail that final experience. It's your final moment to really make a memorable impact. And it can either go really, really well and you got it, you got that mind share, and it's positive mind share. Or if it doesn't, then you've got a lot of things to smooth over. And again, that's what's going to stick. That's what's going to resonate. And to your earlier point, David, that is also the time. Like you've got to, you know, it's almost like a few days that you've got between, you know, before you actually settle in your new home, when your only debate is, you know, what shadow of gray should I paint the walls, or how, you know, what room do we renovate first? And it becomes that conversation. It's like, how was the experience with your realtor, right? And all others that are involved in the home buying or selling process as well.
Okay, and I wanted to ask you about that, because as you were saying with, you know, the mortgage broker, the first thought that came to mind, and I'm sitting here as the realtor, okay? First thought that came to mind for me was, wait, does my mortgage broker need an account with you? Like, how does that work? So
Right.
so now I'm going to say to you, and you said what? There's about 10 different sort of touch points involved in this whole thing. Like there's 10 different pieces or different players or different forms or things that you need as part of the closing process, whatever that exact number is. My question is, if I, the realtor, open up an account with Deeded and I want to make the closing transaction process smoother, what work do I have to do? First of all, what is the process to get signed up?
Yep.
Then what do I have to do to, you know, again, get my lawyer involved, get the inspector involved, get the mortgage broker involved? How does that work?
Right. So we make it effortless and frictionless for everybody. So really, there is no work required. You can get signed up to our platform. Again, we operate as a full service law firm. So we are your lawyer. You don't have to bring in a separate lawyer for the client, or we are your client's lawyer, to be exact.
Sorry, I apologize. Should I be thinking about you as a law firm, or should I be thinking about you as a closing tool?
Well, we are a law firm, right?
Okay.
So we provide the full service end to end. We have the lawyers on staff and the expertise to essentially close real estate transactions. And we've so from that aspect, that's our model right now. Down the road, we may look at partnering with different law firms to allow the usage of our platform. But as of the moment, very similar to if you're referring a lawyer to your clients, we would be one of those options. That's what we see.
Okay, gotcha. So again, do I need? Sorry, I cut you off there completely. You were saying that it's full service law firm, but I was asking you sort of like,
right,
who needs to be involved in this? And again,
so really, so we've got a couple options. We've got we work with a lot of realtors that basically email in an introduction to their client. then we contact the client. We have a conversation to learn about their plan and their closing. We give them a price quote, for example, for their legal fees, and then we move forward towards the closing. In terms of our technology part, we've also got a portal that a realtor can essentially have their own private login. They would basically send us through the client information and some of the documents. And what that does is also, again, takes some of the friction out of the process, because we're not starting from scratch with that client in terms of getting to know them and so on. We've already got a background that we can pre-populate some paperwork and some information, making it a lot easier for the client to go through their closing process. So really that's all that's required. It's free. You don't charge anything for it. And essentially in our model, the client pays their legal fees, same as they would any other law firm that they're using for their closing.
So realtor does the introduction, doesn't cost the realtor anything. Client then decides whether they want to use this process.
Exactly.
Okay. And then they say, yes, I want to use it. So they create an account, which doesn't cost them anything, I think. And
right.
then you basically give them this checklist of like, okay, we need to know who's your mortgage broker and who is your, home inspector, or is that, am I on the right track?
Those are the parties that are involved more so on the mortgage.
It's the homeowner that starts to connect all the pieces.
Yeah.
Now you guys have all the pieces of sort of who you need to connect with, and now you guys do the work in the background to ensure that, all these documents and stuff that people are loading up are getting to the next point.
Exactly. So we make it seamless. And I talked a little bit earlier about transparency, right? And again, transparency is one of those big trends that you're seeing everywhere, right? I can track my Amazon package, I can track my pizza, I can track my Uber. So we have consciously decided to make our process very transparent to everybody that's involved in the transaction, including the buyer, the seller, the realtor, the mortgage broker. Why? Because when everybody knows what's going on up to the minute, that, hey, we've got, we're signing on Thursday. Everybody knows we're signing on Thursday, 4:00, and all the various parties know what action is required. How do we make sure that, again, that experience goes well and the keys are waiting at the house? So when the funds clear, you're driving to your new home and the keys are there, and it's a happy moment, rather than going around town figuring out who's got the keys and chasing them down and all that sort of stuff. So that's what, like, essentially transparency brings us. And again, like, if you think about it logically, if I can track a $5 Domino's pizza, right, from the oven to my door, why am I not tracking the biggest investment of my life? And secondary is, like, when we can't track these things, and I don't know if you noticed that in our own personal lives as consumers, when we don't know what's going on, anxiety goes through the roof, right? And it's already a stressful process as it is. So if you order, an Amazon package and it doesn't show up the next day, what do? You go on your app, track it. Imagine you couldn't track it. Now you're frustrated, right?
Well, so again, we've all had that, right?
Yeah,
we're like, why isn't it here yet?
Happens. But again, like, we're conditioned. Like, we've changed so much over the years that these mechanisms of, tracking and transparency, they're second nature to us. We're used to tracking everything. We're used to having that empowered consumer that has, knowledge at their fingertips in an app or online or getting a text. It's there. It's there already.
I was thinking about this the other day, possibly yesterday, but I was thinking it through, and I was, you've ever been somewhere, I don't know, it could be a mechanic, it could be whatever, and you sort of, drop off the car. I'll use the mechanic as an example. And you're like, hey, I need this, and that. And they go like, okay, cool, leave the keys over there and I'll get it done. Now, you got a couple ways to think about that. One is to go, well, when are you going to get it done? And when can I come back and pick it up?
Right.
The other person goes, okay, cool, yeah, let me know. And they leave. So I started thinking about that. I don't know why the thought came to me yesterday. It might have been after the phone call we had, but I started thinking that part through. And I thought, okay, wait a second. When that happens, and I'm that guy that walks in just cool, nonchalant, yeah, man, need to fix the bike or the car or whatever, and they go, yeah, we'll get it done, we'll let you know. I'm typically not the guy to be like, okay, cool, see you later. I'll be like, how How long? Is it coming? Is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be 5 hours? Now, the thing is, the further thought to that was what you end up doing is you get people's kind of hairs up on them, right? They're kind of like, whoa, I told you I'll get it done. Now, not all personalities are the same. So my personality is going on, and I need to know when and where and what. I got schedules to meet. I got places to be. Let me know what's going on. Whereas these people in their mind, they're 1,000,000% locked in. They are going to get this done. In their head, it's going to be done timely and efficiently and all that other stuff. But they just didn't give you that much detail, which leads us to go, wait a second, right? And so as you're telling about this now and the tracking, I start to think you're bang on, man. Because when I think to myself, it's like, I just went to Harley the other day, and I had lost a pair of gloves while we were riding. Now, for anybody that's going like, how could you lose gloves? Aren't they on your hands? No, they were not. It was pouring rain. I took the short gloves, I put them on my engine, I let them heat up. And then when we got back on the road and I put on my long gloves, I forgot to take the short ones off the engine. And lo and behold, the next day I realized they were gone. Anyhow, point is, went into Harley, ordered gloves, and because of everything that's going on out there, she tells me it's going to be like 3 months. Now, this was just the other day. The thought being in 3 months from now, I'm not wearing my short gloves anymore. If I'm still riding, it's cold outside, right? So I'm okay. Take as long as you need to. But when you bring this up, there is no tracking for that particular purchase. Zero. So I'm at the mercy now to just kind of wait for a phone call. Now, if it was the start of the summer, that would be driving me nuts because I want my gloves. The fact that going into winter, it's a little bit different. But then when you turn this into the biggest purchase of your entire life, oh my God, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to know exactly what's going on. And I even remember having to drive to, sort of mid-city to go pick up my keys. And that was just a pain in the butt all on its own. So you
Right.
guys are taking this and making the entire process way more efficient for the agent, way more efficient for the homeowner. It just seems like a no-brainer.
Oh, totally. Love those words. And that's exactly what we're maniacally focused on, right? Is bring that level of simplicity and transparency. Because again, the stress levels, the anxiety of not knowing, right? I think that's what gets us. Like, so when you go and order your gloves and you're told, 3 months, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, it could be 6 months, right? And I think in the near future, I mean, today we might not have enough choices out there, but in the near future, you are going to want to do business with companies that have that level of service. Like, perfect example. I mean, the other day, my dryer extension hose got loose, and I decided, hey, it's probably easier to buy a new one. And I literally picked up my keys, got in the car, and turned it on. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go through the experience of going to the hardware store, right? A, I didn't have time. B, as things aren't easy nowadays. Line up outside, put on the mask,
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. So
Yep.
literally from the car, I pull out my phone. Amazon's got this, dryer hose, 6 feet, same specs I needed, same day delivery, right?
Wow.
And I could track it, and I knew because that expectation was set that I didn't have to worry about it, right? I just have to manage with my wife that she won't have a dryer for 5 or 6 hours, but that's about it, right?
Have
So,
you got solutions for those?
yeah, no, absolutely, right? Friction removed, predictability and transparency has
Yeah.
brought it into an entire new level, because had I gone into the hardware store, not only would it have been more difficult and less convenient, but maybe they didn't have that. Maybe it would have been a 3-month back order on that dryer hose. So there we go, back to square one. I'm frustrated, didn't have a good experience. That's all I'm going to remember about that brand at the end of the day.
It's amazing. You bring that up, and I thought it brings me to when this first started. I had bought something from Canadian Tire, and I believe that everybody, small biz, big business, had a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to increase efficiencies, right? And I remember going there. I bought it online. They email you back, wait for the email to tell us that it's ready, and then you can come pick it up. Went to go pick it up. Went to the front. The guy tells me it's going to be an hour. Wait, and I went, an hour? But you guys told me it's ready. He says, yeah, but sir, you see the lineup behind you? And it was like literally a lineup of like 25 cars. Now in my head, I'm thinking to myself, but you told me it's ready. Just go inside, grab the bag, and bring it to me.
Right.
At the same time, to be fair to everybody that was there before me, I respected the fact that like I should go wait in line. So what did I do? I left. I thought, I don't have an hour to wait in line to pick up a
Sure.
bag that's going to take me 10 seconds to pick up. I'll come back here like first thing bright and early on like a Monday morning or something, right? Where like everybody else is not there.
Yeah.
And I did that. And it still took me half an hour, but it got me thinking about the whole processes and the experience of it all. And I'll tell you now, I think I just went back to Canadian Tire the first time yesterday or the day before. And I'll tell you that a few days before that, I went over there and I was walking in with Joshua, my little man, and I was like, masks. And I left. And then I went back. So quite frankly, the experience to go shopping anywhere, there's not a knock on Canadian Tire, but the experience to go shopping anywhere is a pain in the butt. And you're absolutely right. Again, when it comes back to efficiencies, when it comes back to, time management and how we run our businesses and schedule our days and everything else, when you can have a tool in your back pocket that is going to help you make that process easier and is going to leave a positive impression, which means positive mind share, you're setting yourself up for increased market share.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm curious now, and kind of transitioning this more to not what you guys do and how you do it, but more about what you do and how you do it. Starting a new business is not easy. We've already mentioned that you started, and I know you've been involved in a lot of different things, but very specifically, MoveSnap being a successful business and be able to sell that successfully. And then going and starting something new, what we call a quote unquote startup. Positioning that for everybody listening in, realtors, mortgage brokers, entrepreneurs, anybody that's in the world of business. You started a new business. And you didn't start it at the easiest times of the world either. I'm curious to know what steps you took there. Like, what was the most important, maybe one or two or three things that you focused on? I mean, we can talk about, again, what Deeded does, which we've just gone through, but that's in the business. That's the functionality and the service of what you guys offer. I'm talking about you guys, like the guys that are making this thing tick. And again, sharing that back to folks that are trying to build their own business. What was important to you about, getting up in the morning and being like, that's it, we're game on, let's do this.
Yeah.
Does that
No,
make sense?
yeah, no, totally does. So to me, it's a process, right? Because I think ultimately the mission of any business is to create value. And I know it sounds MBA-ish or whatnot, but
Nope,
you've
it's
got to
bang on, man.
deliver something of value and exchange that for money or exchange that for something else at the end of the day. So before even starting to think about what we do in this space, a lot of the stuff we talked about, transparency and convenience and friction, I did the same thing that I did back with MoveSnap, which is like, let me go talk to at least 100 people and ask them open-ended questions about how their experience and how their process went. And what would they do if, I have this thing called, a magic wand question, right? And I ask, if you had a magic wand and you had one wish, what would it be? How would you make it better? How would you improve the process? And, furiously taking notes, listening for common themes. And that's what, informed us to there's a real problem here. There's a real opportunity to solve it as well. B is how would you solve it? Because you already know what your clients want. And it's, again, to bring it back to parallel, to the realtor, to the mortgage broker, you guys do this every day, right? You don't just meet someone and say, hey, Dave, good afternoon. You want to see a house? And just show them a random home. No, you find out about their needs. You find out about their experience. Where are they living now? What do they like about it? What don't they like? What's their wish list? What's their area? What's their budget? And only then can you start coming back to adding value, right? So that's, that's kind of stage one, is spending that, grinding along and finding out that information. Only then do you start building and solutioning and essentially testing. And we're still, infinitely evolving and testing things out with the various, parties in the community. Does this work? How would you like this? Dave, how would you like a dashboard that tells you where your deal's at? And how much detail should that dashboard have? Should we email you? Do you prefer we text you, right? And that's an ongoing process that everybody takes on. The second part is really building a great team around you, right? Ultimately, all of us have one thing in common, is that we all have a passion for solving the problem. So we fell in love with the problem. We didn't fall in love with the solution. And I always say, look, fall in love with the problem and you shall solve it. There may be 10 different ways to do it. 9 out of those 10 might fail. But if you're passionate and you wake up in the morning and the first thing on your mind is, I gotta solve this problem and I gotta find ways, you're gonna solve it, guaranteed. So that's, those have been the stepping stones, right? And then, it really comes back to execution. There's a million ideas, right? There's a million people with ideas out there. If I had $1 for every time somebody says, well, I had exactly the same idea,
you wouldn't have to do all this.
Right. So we all know, no matter the plan, no plan's worth the piece of paper it's written on or computer it's typed on, unless you go and execute, make those calls, get those meetings, get rejected a few times, right? Because that's a lesson. Every single time you get rejected, somebody didn't see value, back to the drawing board, come back next week, right? Or come back the next day.
Well said on that part, man.
That's been a formula. Right?
I was just doing a session prior to this, and I said to everybody, I said, the more times you hear no, you should be excited because you're about to get a yes, right? But if you don't hear no enough, don't even think the yes is happening that easily, right?
Totally.
So where are you guys seeing most of your business? Is it existing relationships, people or is it random strangers? And I imagine there's both ends of that coming in. But just on the overall, again, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who is building businesses, where do you typically start as a foundational piece of your biz?
You start with the industry, and that means anybody that can add value to your overall process, again, of discovering and learning and all that. So for example, our sole mission right now, when we're just starting out, is we want to have at least 1,000, and we call them raving fans, right? So coming back to the concept of mind share and experience, what's a raving fan? A raving fan will, stand out on the sidewalk and tell all their friends and family, anybody that'll listen, maybe on Facebook, how amazing you are. So that's, and we don't define exactly how to make someone into a raving fan, but that's our focus. So our focus right now, as you're still, taking baby steps, growing, you're introducing a new product, is how do we make every single client into a raving fan? Let's get to that 1,000 number, because we know there's that multiplier effect. Very similar to what you talk about every single day, right? We're creating that mind share with clients, with the industry, that they know that we can not only say that we're great, but we can deliver and knock it out of the park every single time. And when that client calls the realtor or their mortgage broker and say, hey, you know what? This was just incredible. It took my mind off of it. Now I'm on my couch, having that drink. We know that missions have been achieved, right?
Okay, so this and I mean, listen, I got to tell you, I really love the amount of times you're using the word mindshare today. It's wonderful. I'm curious though, and for all of our mindshare masters, stay tuned because we're about to open up our VIP room in a few moments. To everybody who is not yet a mindshare master, reach out to me. I'll share details with you. But it is part of our group coaching platform. It is a private community of some amazing people, and I know most people right now are out kicking ass, doing some awesome things to take advantage of the market at the moment. For everybody, just check that out. But Reuven, I'm curious, how are you building mindshare right now for that business? So, what channels are you guys using? What are, and understanding the philosophy, and I absolutely love it. I love, fall in love with the problem and you shall solve it. So now we're getting up in the day and we're going, okay, we've got to do this. We've also got to build the brand. We've got to get out there and market this thing. We got to get the world to know it. We're talking about, we said our audience is the industry. How are we going about communication to the industry?
Yeah, no, so we're using, obviously, you have a lot of tools at our disposal. We have, Facebook and Instagram and the traditional social channels. But again, it comes back to that concept of really servicing that client, making sure that experience goes super smooth. and then creating that loop back to everybody that's involved in the transaction, right? If, making essentially that client, again, not to repeat myself, but making him into a raving fan, and that kind of takes care of itself. So we're sort of looking at it, just to have that almost flywheel effect that, you have one client go through the process, they have a great experience, they tell 5 others, rinse and repeat, and get some of those successes out so that the industry hears about them, right? And
got it. So are you doing a lot of the social media stuff?
yeah, quite a bit.
Are you spending on social? Not to ask details about what or whatever, but are you going down there? Is it more a lot of the organic and just get involved with people?
Yeah, no, very, very organic. And again, coming back to like, finding and listening to our clients and listening to what they might need and falling in love with the problem. Like, so for example, we saw a few cases where first-time buyers, for example, are going through the closing process. Now, first-time buyer, you've never gone through it, and there's so many moving pieces, even aside from the closing. There's, you can withdraw from your RSP, there's rebates, there's land transfer tax rebates, there's an entire myriad of complexities that would really benefit a first-time buyer from not only knowing about them, but understanding how this whole thing is going to go down and make it as, the least stressful part of the process as opposed to the most stressful where we're backloading them. So, so we took action over the course of a few days. That we literally collected our collective knowledge across our entire team, published a guidebook, Closing for First-Time Buyers. What do you need to know? The whole thing is about 15 pages. It's very information rich. When we started sending it out last week, all of a sudden, the feedback's been incredible, right?
Forgive me. Sorry. Hard copy or email or both?
Email.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry, keep going. So you're doing an email blast?
Yeah.
Hey, here's this thing.
Sending it to our clients, sending it to our realtor partners, our mortgage brokers, all in the way of helping educate that home buyer of how things are going to play out, what to expect, how the process works, what are the various, even like we all use different terminology, right? Land transfer tax, LTT, and for a first-time buyer, it's overwhelming. I mean, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
So how do we simplify that? So we've had people already consume that. We've had feedback, that it really kind of eased the stress once you can anticipate what's going on in the process, right?
Are you guys doing a lot of phone calls as well?
Oh yeah, tons.
Cool. And I imagine demos and things like that for different offices and brands and whatever.
Yeah, and same with clients, right? So I mean, one thing that I constantly get as a and I think you've asked a question earlier, David, about it's technology. What if they can't use?
Yeah.
So digital or technology or virtual, and this applies to everything now because again, we've been pushed by COVID into virtual tours and canceling open houses and signing documents digitally and all that sort of stuff. Now, digital does not equal impersonal. The business is still a relationship business and adding value via building that trust. Technology is merely a tool to allow you to deliver a better level of service, to make that process easier, or as we said, frictionless. But what you do is what you do best, right? Is build that trust and relationship. It doesn't change things. So to that point, when a client first comes through the door, we pick up the phone and call them, and a lot of times they're actually blown away, right? I didn't expect anybody to give me a call, but thank you. I've got a bunch of questions, and at that point we're building that relationship and setting that experience off to a great start, and not only relying on, we've got technology, that's fine. We'll text them. They'll be fine, right?
No, it's real interesting, and I think that there's a lot of logic to why you started this, and then obviously how it fits into the process. I think it's certainly leading edge there, and a useful tool for for everybody to take advantage of. I'm excited for you guys to see where you guys are headed with it. I know it's going to be it's going to continue to grow and be another one of your success stories. So keep up the great work with that, buddy. I'm curious as we kind of look ahead now and we transition into this, fall market. Knowing what we know, and we talked about the sidebar before going on air around the kids' sports, and you and I bump into hockey rinks at each other pretty often, or bump into hockey rinks with each other, whatever I just said there. Bottom line, what are you seeing ahead here for our industry as we come into this fall market? What do you think lies ahead for everybody?
Yeah, no, so I'm not even going to take a chance as predicting the market. All right.
That's
The market's the market.
yeah.
But there is a changing tide. And so think about it, again, middle of March, we were all forced into doing things that we've never tried before. They were available. So for example, I had a virtual doctor's appointment a couple weeks ago. And it was on Zoom. It was, time for 20 minutes.
It wasn't a physical, was it? Because that'd be really weird.
No, it was not a physical. A doctor's appointment, had a few questions. But nonetheless, the way it went down was actually super convenient because the doctor showed up on time. Obviously didn't have to travel. Did the Zoom call about 10, 15 minutes and just moved on. Got my prescription, which was now electronically emailed to my local pharmacy, and the local pharmacy even delivers, right? And there's, so once you've gone through that, obviously, if you have a serious issue, you're still going to go see a doctor, but why would I ever go back to the old way of doing things? I love the virtual, medical appointment. I asked my doctor saying, well, how's that working out for you? And it turns out he loves it because he's so much more efficient. So to tie it back to, the real estate industry.
Was he on time, by the way? Because doctors are always late.
Yeah, but you know what? He wasn't. And he loves the fact, like those Zoom meetings or whatever tool he's using, it's literally timed. You see a timer on the screen. You've got 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And you just move on. You move on, the doctor moves on, they've got the next appointment and they are on time, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? No waiting rooms, none of that,
sitting with other people that might be sick. And that's a big fear these days right now is like, God forbid I have to go to the hospital for something.
Yeah. Now let's take it back. So we've probably seen more technology adoption because remember, like the word has always been adoption. It's not availability.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's rocket ships out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean everybody's adopted them, but there's always been technology out there that we've been reluctant to use, like telemedicine, like getting Instacart from your supermarket, right? Because I wanted to go and, touch the tomatoes and whatever. And now they're not an option. So once you're hooked on them and you've kind of taken that leap, odds are you're not going back to the old way, right? So summarize, 6 months, technology adoption through the roof for everybody, no matter what age group or whatnot. Now, what this presents to the real estate industry is actually probably one of the biggest opportunities for efficiency and convenience. So perfect example, I've talked to an agent earlier this week, and he's in the luxury home business, sells homes that are 5 million and up. And, his issue before is like he's got, at that range, you've got very, very particular buyers. And, you likely have to show a lot of homes before somebody, finally puts together an offer.
On a $5 million house, absolutely.
Yeah. So he's taken his business into a little bit of a different approach. He curates virtual tours for his clients, some of which are here, some of which are, come from out of town or abroad. Sends them 10 virtual tours and asks them to essentially view the virtual tours and weed it down to the 2 or 3 properties they'd like to see, right? So how efficient is that now, right? Instead of driving and coordinating 10 different appointments to, hey, you know what, weed it down and let's go do some business and make some deals, perhaps on those 2 or 3 properties that have garnered some interest, right? So that wave efficiency is unbelievable, right? The time savings. And that's always been a challenge for the industry that, you can go hire another 2 assistants or you can hire a team around you, but you're still always you still always got a ceiling in terms of number of transactions you could do either on your own or building an entire team, which obviously has a certain, other challenges of managing people,
Absolutely.
that sort of thing, right?
So you're seeing sort of the future of what's ahead is increased efficiencies, is kind of looking at your business and asking yourself, how can I be more efficient with respect to my time, with my processes, basically how I run every step of my business.
Yeah, and coming back to now you have the tools to take that, to take more of that friction out of the process for your clients, be it like a DocuSign or whatnot, or virtual tours, and there's all the tools were there. Now you're probably finding that a lot more clients are open to using those. They've become familiar. If they're buying, odds are everybody's seen a Matterport tour and they're comfortable at navigating that dollhouse model without any issue. And it's becoming mainstream now. So such an opportunity to really make that process a lot easier, a lot frictionless for the client.
And to piggyback on sort of that question around where do you see us going, what last words have you of wisdom can you share with our industry right now of just anything that and I mean, again, you painted a wonderful picture just now of really looking at our business and our systems around, again, our efficiencies and how do we make it a better process for ourselves and everybody around us. Throw me some last words if you have any.
Yeah, no, my only last words, and I'm going to repeat myself again, is that the best experience will win the day, right? That the best experience will win the day, because that's ultimately, everybody's going to have a lot of the same. I can get you the best price for your home. Here's what I do for marketing. What people are gravitating to is those that could deliver an experience. And I think we've brought up so many examples from our personal lives that make it easy, don't frustrate people, make it stress-free. And if you can figure out how to deliver that, use the tools at your disposal, be that conductor of the real estate transaction where every note's on tune, every single party is aligned to how that process is going to work. Ultimately you'll be super successful. The fundamentals are the fundamentals. Nothing will change from that sense, but the best experience wins the day. Love
that. Reuven, where can people find you?
So dita.ca is our website. Reuven@dita.ca is my email. I'm on social as well. Ping me, would love to chat, would love to also get your feedback, back to where we are and what we're building. Would love to hear your thoughts and appreciate any wisdom and advice as well.
And our good friend Cheryl Easton has been sharing a lot of great stuff on the comments today. Cheryl, thank you. As well, she has shared Reuven's Facebook, as well as deeded links. So I encourage you guys, check out the comments. Go ahead, check that out. It is posted in there a couple of times. So that's good. I encourage you guys, again, reach out to Reuven. Is certainly a leader in the industry. A very bright guy, and I was certainly fortunate to make the connection some years ago, man, and I'm grateful for the connection. And thank you for taking the time today. I have one final question for you before we go. What made you smile today?
Made me smile is actually we got a new kitten a couple days ago, and came up and started scratching my ear in the morning. So it's those little things. We live in mysterious times where every day is a bit of a Groundhog's Day. So just that's what made me smile, and obviously this session as well. So,
Reuven, I thank you, man. I really appreciate you making the time today.
Likewise, great to be here.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the 7 Ways to Communicate ebook to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And I want to invite you all to join us for the upcoming Mindshare Challenge starting on September 8th. This is an 8-hour live mastermind delivered 2 times a week for 1 hour each session over the course of 4 weeks. We're live every Tuesday and Thursday together. Topics include goal setting, systems and time management, marketing plans and budgeting, referral strategies, social media, video, online lead gen, and prospecting. This course is fully loaded, and we are going to help you transform and expand your real estate business without the heavy price tag. And by downloading the 7 Ways to Communicate, you will be sent a special promo code for some big savings, so make sure you do that. All the info for this event can be found online at www.themsc101.com. For any questions, just get in touch with our team. And by taking this challenge, you'll also have access to our private Mindshare community. We meet twice a month live to share ideas, tips, tricks, and do some mind sharing. And all of our Mindshare masters get access to our private VIP Q&A with our special podcast guests each week. And you get daily marketing and sales tips delivered right to you. Plus the opportunity to motivate, learn, and network with a whole bunch of people just like you, going through the same struggles in business as you, looking to achieve like you. Again, the link is www.themsc101.com. Registration is open. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.